Good evening, it's 8 o'clock. I'm Sally Burdett, live from Johannesburg. Your top stories this evening.
We are going to be coming up with some announcements tomorrow.
Eskom won't survive past April, but the president says he has a plan. However, there are already questions about some of the plans announced yesterday. COSATU takes to the streets to march against the unbundling of Eskom. They're worried it will lead to a jobs bloodbath. And shot and wounded while sitting in class, a pupil in Ekurhuleni is caught in the crossfire of a suspected thief's stray bullet. We start here. Eskom has 3 months to go before total financial collapse. That's the dire warning delivered to Parliament this morning by the Public Enterprises Department. The power utility is technically insolvent, in debt to the tune of about 400 billion rand, and desperately in need of a bailout. But President Cyril Ramaphosa says we shouldn't panic. He has a plan. He's promised to reveal those details tomorrow.
We have been discussing all morning as Cabinet the dire situation that we are in, and we're working out a number of plans so that we are able to address this challenge collectively, and we are going to be coming up with some announcements tomorrow, and in the following week we will also address the financial aspect. So I'm going to be able to say to South Africans, let's not panic. In some ways we've been here before and we came out on the other side of the river, and we will address this issue and this challenge and this problem, and we will find solutions, and solutions are actually emerging, and we will be okay.
But as our leaders scramble to make a plan to save Eskom, there are already questions about the external engineers who are due to be brought in to help fix the power utility. Now, the company appointed by Eskom apparently has a conflict of interest. Yesterday, the Public Enterprises Minister announced an Italian energy producer is sending 2 engineers to help the power utility. But it has emerged a subsidiary of the group is a major benefactor of our Africa Independent Power Producer Program. Govan Whittles has that story.
Construction at the Enel Group's Nguba wind farm in the Eastern Cape started on the same day Pravin Gordhan announced the company would be helping Eskom. Enel has signed an 18 billion rand deal with the Energy Department for 5 wind farms. Now it will be advising Eskom about coal power. Energy experts say the conflict of interest is stark.
Because these IPPs are a major supplier to Eskom. It really surprised me that Eskom would appoint Enel in this kind of advisory capacity, knowing full well the potential conflict of interest and the risks that this could cause by the opponents of Eskom's restructuring plan.
Former Eskom chief Brian Damas resigned when it emerged he was heading up billionaire Patrice Motsepe's renewable energy company. Metal Workers Union NUMSA believes the revelations around Enel vindicates its opposition to the IPP program.
We find this to be highly improper if it turns out to be true, and this for us is exactly the reason why we have been saying that this IPP project is riddled with corruption.
Meanwhile, COSATU has questioned why international experts are needed for a local problem.
At what point are we going to talk about skills transfer and ensure that our people are capable of fixing our own problems than relying on international people?
The Public Enterprises Department hasn't responded to requests for comment. Govan Whittles, Johannesburg.
Stage 3 load shedding continued today. In fact, this studio is currently being powered by a generator. We are in the midst of load shedding here in our ETV Hyde Park studios. About R1 billion is lost to the economy with every stage of load shedding. That's according to a private sector representative. As outages continue, the power cuts deal a serious blow to hopes for the 4th industrial revolution as well. Leanne Jansen reports.
Government admits Eskom is on the verge of total collapse and big business is gravely worried.
I think For me, the concern is more around the stuff we can't measure, so loss of confidence in this economy, spooking investors and all of that kind of stuff. So those are the costs that are going to impact on our economic growth quite fundamentally.
Ryan Ravens heads up Accelerate Cape Town, which represents the city's top 40 corporates. He says billions of rand are being lost due to the inability to fix the country's most crucial state-owned enterprise.
The estimates have it somewhere around R1 billion per stage, right? So if it's stage 2, you lost about 2 billion rand. Stage 3, 3 billion, and stage 4, because it's so pervasive, stage 4 is between 4 and 5 billion rand per day that we're losing.
As for the fourth industrial revolution, Raven says government can forget about it if the outages continue.
Internet of Things, robotics, artificial intelligence, and so on. And as a country, we aspire to those things. But the reality is we can't keep the lights on. And so all of this focus and energy on the fourth industrial revolution is perhaps premature in a country where we're struggling to provide the basic building blocks of our economy.
He believes privatization may be the only way to go if government is serious about fixing the ailing power utility. Leanne Jansen, Cape Town.
Well, Labour Federation COSATU certainly doesn't agree that privatisation is the only way to go. They're concerned that unbundling Eskom will lead to massive job losses. Thousands of COSATU members were on the streets of 8 provinces today. Linda Kuhle-Kulu has the details.
We shall immediately embark on a process of establishing 3 separate entities: generation, transmission and distribution under Eskom Holdings.
A statement that has many workers worried about job safety. Members of Trade Union Federation COSATU have been raising their voices on the picket line. From Johannesburg to Port Elizabeth, Durban and other cities, it's bread and butter issues that they want addressed.
This is the beginning of rolling mass actions. This is not an end in itself, but it is a means of launching a bigger campaign on retrenchment and job losses.
COSATU and its affiliates believe the unbundling of Eskom doesn't bode well for the energy sector.
As Nehau and COSATU disagree with unbundling because we know what is underlying. Underlying is privatization, which will minimize as much as possible the labor.
Calls made here do not include abandoning support for the ruling party at the polls. But COSATU says this isn't a blank check for the ANC and government to do to workers whatever they want. Education authorities admit the strike left many classes without teachers. Prolonged mass action affecting more sectors could spell trouble. Linda Kuhle-Kulu, Johannesburg.
Moving to other news now, and yet another incident has brought school safety into question. This time in Edenvale, Gauteng, an 18-year-old pupil was rushed to hospital this morning after being shot and wounded while sitting in class. Now, it's believed the Dower Glen High School pupil was hit by a bullet when security guards exchanged gunfire with suspected thieves who'd vaulted a fence around the school. Our reporter Michael Apple was at that school shortly after the incident.
The Gauteng Department of Education has described it as trespassers on the property and a learner that got caught in the crossfire. But let's listen to what the police's Captain Marvelo Masondo said led up to this event.
We can confirm that the police have opened a case of attempted murder. This is after a learner at one of the schools here in Edenvale was shot at. And there are 3 people that were arrested for a business burglary after they broke into these premises. It is alleged that the security guards, they received information that there were people that were breaking in these premises, and they responded. Indeed, when they got here, they found 4 suspects, and 2 of them were arrested on the spot, and the other one fled on foot. The security guards then they chased the suspect until at the school. Yes, at the school. It's then that they called the police for backup.
Well, moving now to Northwest politics, and Supra is back. The South Gauteng High Court has ruled that former Northwest Chairperson Supra Mahumapelo should return to his office and resume his responsibilities immediately. Now, Mahumapelo and 4 others approached the court on Tuesday on an urgent basis, asking for it to enforce last week's ruling. That ruling, of course, overturned the ANC NEC's decision to disband the Provincial Executive Committee of the Northwest last year. The ANC has accepted today's decision but says it needs to challenge aspects of the ruling. And there's a twist in the case against a teacher accused of sexually assaulting 24 pupils at Valhalla Primary School. The investigating officer is being accused of soliciting a bribe to make the docket disappear. The teacher, who can't be named until he pleads, is applying for bail in the Pretoria Magistrates Court. The magistrate will decide on bail tomorrow. Still ahead on eNews, Mexican drug lord Joaquin Guzman is found guilty.
And in your business, the rand has taken a hard knock today, erasing all of yesterday's gains.
Let's talk money now with Rufiwe, and of course we've got to start with Eskom. This big plan tomorrow, what's it likely to be? Is it going to be a bailout?
We don't know. It possibly will be, but the big question here, Sally, is where will the money come from? Is Treasury going to come in and save the day? Are we going to get some money from international stakeholders? It definitely is not going to come through from power sales, because we've seen a decline in those since 2008. And if we take a look at a graph that was put together by Parliament, we see that while Eskom has been putting together revenue over the past few years, net profit has decreased significantly. And we are seeing that, the graph would show that Eskom is then technically insolvent. So we are seeing that the net profit is at around 100 billion rand, and they've got 420 billion rand in
graph.
debt. So it's scary what's happened over the years and what Eskom has been unable to do when it comes to finances.
Absolutely. Well, we await that announcement with much anticipation. Some potentially good news. We're about to finalise a trade deal with the UK, Brexit notwithstanding.
Absolutely. So it looks like South Africa may not be part of those implications that come out of a hard Brexit should it happen. The government has confirmed that it's finalising discussions on an agreement which will be signed off in the first week of March, so that trade can continue. So 40% of our exports go to the EU, including the UK. So it's going to be a good sign in terms of that revenue.
Excellent. And I have to ask you, because really it's a South African institution, worrying signs from the Edcon group. Is Edgar's going to go the way of Studdefords and Close?
Well, according to the chief executive, no. But the unions are very worried that about 140,000 jobs could be lost if Edcon cannot secure about 3 billion rand to help it with operations over the next 3 years. And this 3 billion rand is said to be coming from the PIC. So he has said, the chief executive, is that these negotiations are ongoing. But I don't know that the PIC can afford such a big investment for a company that's going through what Edcon has been going through over the years.
Oh dear, that really is a worrying story. Thank you very much, Rufiwe. Let's move now to the indicators.
Indicators indeed. So we did see that we had a strong performance by diversified miners, which kept the JSE in positive territory today, but the local bourse did see losses in property stocks and the general retailers. So the JSE closed just above 1% higher. On the commodities front, Brent crude is no longer on a slippery slope. Oil prices rose as much as 2% as the top oil exporter. Saudi Arabia said it would cut crude exports as well as production. On the local unit front, now the rand took a hard fall today, falling to about 13 rand 99 cents against the US dollar. The local unit is really at the mercy of Eskom's troubles as well as the stronger dollar.
Absolutely. So all eyes on the president tomorrow. Thank you so much, Rufiwe.
Thank you, Sally.
Let's take a quick look at international news now. And notorious Mexican drug lord Joaquin El Chapo Guzman faces life behind bars. El Chapo has been found guilty on a number of charges, including distribution of drugs, possession of illegal firearms, and money laundering. He was arrested in January 2016 after escaping from a Mexican prison. He was extradited to the United States in 2017. Well, still ahead, we'll go to our weather centre in Cape Town for your live weather update. And then, running or driving, which is faster in load-shedding traffic? We send our two reporters, Michael and Janka, out onto the roads in rush hour to see who wins the race. Let's go down to Cape Town. Louis Fernandez standing by with all your weather news. Evening to you, Louis. And gosh, that's Bloemfontein today, I believe.
Absolutely, Sally. There was a heavy downpour in the area during the course of this afternoon. That brought flooding to many parts of the city. But in addition to that, there was also a report of a weak tornado just outside of Aliwal North in the Eastern Cape. And we can see that funnel cloud touching down just outside of the town. And thankfully, no reports of damage out of this potentially dangerous situation. We're going to continue seeing wet weather over parts of South Africa as we head into Valentine's Day. And the reason for this is that we have two sources of moisture that will be converging over the eastern parts of the country, bringing cloudy and wet conditions that also includes Gauteng. And then into the afternoon, thunderstorms will once again be developing into the central interior, while further westwards, it's going to be a hot and dry afternoon. Here's your city forecast for tomorrow, and in the Northern Cape, there'll be a few thunderstorms, very high temperatures further westwards, 35 as a maximum for Springbok. And we're going to see very similar temperatures into parts of the Western Cape, but it stays a bit milder along the south coast, George, with a high of 25. A few showers and thunderstorms into the Eastern Cape. Mthatha will be mostly cloudy with some drizzle, 23 as your maximum. And then for KwaZulu-Natal, a cloudy and wet day expected with showery conditions over the area. We're going to have an 80% chance of thunder showers during the course of the morning, mostly for Mpumalanga, but it does stay cloudy with some rain into the afternoon, and very similar conditions expected for a much cooler Limpopo. Polokwane, 22 degrees. You're not going to see much sunshine tomorrow. Heading into the northwest, stormy conditions over this province persisting, 23 for Mahikeng. And we're going to have another stormy day into parts of the Free State with much thicker cloud, especially in the north of the province. And finally, for Gauteng, it's going to be a rainy Valentine's Day over the area, especially in the morning, but we could still see some rain into the afternoon, and it's going to be cloudy and quite cool. A quick check ahead to your conditions for Friday, and we're going to see more thunder shower activity over the interior of South Africa. Dry and hot for Cape Town at 30 degrees, and the pattern stays more or less the same into Saturday, when it could become quite wet for Limpopo and Mpumalanga once again. That's all from the Weather Centre. Sally, it's back to you.
Thank you very much, Louis Fernandez in Cape Town. And finally, traffic chaos over the past few days has left motorists often at a standstill. So we decided to test an alternative for you. Running. We put our reporter Janka Tolme in a car and Michael Marilia in his running shoes and let them loose on a 4-kilometre route during Joburg rush hour this afternoon with load shedding and in the rain. Take a look.
Load shedding is causing chaos on our roads.
People are finding it tough to get home.
So should South Africans be running to and from work.
But who would get there quicker?
Today we put that to the test.
At the moment it says it's going to take us 20 minutes to drive 4 kilometers, but that was the case when we left the office, and that's now about 40 minutes later. We still haven't moved much.
The flip side of all of this is that I passed Janka about 300 meters away. She's not going anywhere. I'm going to slither along the passages and the sidewalks of this particular suburb, and I guarantee I'm going to get back to you quicker than Janka. I'll see you in a short while.
Michael just passed us down, just Jan Smuts already running past us. We are moving quite slowly. If I was walking, I would probably walk past the car at the moment. Even though I expected that it would be bad, this has absolutely blown my mind.
Given how long it actually takes to travel in a car during load shedding, maybe this is a better option. Maybe you want to buy yourselves a pair of shoes, a pair of running sneakers instead of a car. I'll donate the end of the evening.
So running a 4-kilometre route took 40 minutes. That same route by car during load shedding in Joburg rush hour, 2 hours, 40 minutes. It's time to dust off my running shoes. Let's recap your top stories this evening.
We are going to be coming up with some announcements tomorrow.
Eskom won't survive past April, but the president says he has a plan. Already, however, there's some questions about some of the announcements made yesterday. COSATU takes to the streets to march against the unbundling of Eskom. They're worried it will lead to a jobs bloodbath. And shot and wounded while sitting in class, a pupil in Ekurhuleni is caught in the crossfire of a suspected thief's stray bullet. From me and the team, it's a very good night.